And spawning in the upper right-hand corner of Jagannatha, hailing from the home team, Alpha X's ASTREA.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand side, it is the blue Terran superhero. It is none other than BYUN. So of course these players, both top tier professional players. Not that the players that were just playing, of course, were playing in the ATL Pro. So all of these folks are high GM caliber. But ASTREA and BYUN are their day job is StarCraft kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. A certain level of refinement. Maybe the fender on that build is a little sturdier, and even if it takes some dinging, it doesn't quite deform out of shape.
Yeah,
right? These are the players that are able to kind of recover and find their balance, even though they are perturbed by other players whose day job might be StarCraft as well.
Indeed. So we see ASTREA, much like Paco, is opting to go for that Reaper wall here instead of one of the other options. People kind of drop those structures right next to the Nexus. You don't have to have the probe travel as far. You get a few more minerals, but as you were saying before, this is nice because it gets to deny some of that vision.
Yeah, and it looks like ASTREA is definitely putting respect where respect is due, scouting both the kind of the 11 o'clock position as well as down here by the third. Making sure that there's not any sort of proxy barracks play.
Yeah.
Good. To, in a best of anything, it's kind of good to kind of roll out something quick that your opponent may not be considering. If anything else, to make the rest of your macro games just that one bit more. Hey, wait a minute, what's he doing? I can't take on faith that he's going to play me a good, honest game of StarCraft. Right.
Totally. And proxy 2x definitely popular. Proxy anything. And yeah, I think as you said, ASTREA certainly giving BYUN a little bit of respect, saying, okay, I want to make sure that I'm not gonna just die to some sort of all in because I didn't believe that you would do it. I also like, actually, and this is a small thing, sending the probe behind the mineral line up here. So many times I've seen an SCV just sneak behind that Nexus, drop a bunker, and then the Reaper just hops into it, and it's just so annoying. You have to make a shield battery, and then it just it's a whole thing.
These are mineral patches I wanted to mine. I mean, hey, I made a Nexus right here.
Yeah.
And it looks like this Adept is looking to be a little annoying. Unfortunately, not able to kind of stall that CC like I think he wanted to. And notice here, I think BYUN has opened 3 CC before factory, opting to defend with just Marines. All the gas is, delayed gas is going into kind of a slower tech. But if BYUN is able to kind of, the transmission here is to basically take that extra base earlier, get a bunch more units, much more SUVs, delaying any sort of potential attack or aggression for it looks like, in fact, I watched it build the whole time, and in fact this wasn't an extra factory, this was an actually extra barracks. Looks like this is going to be kind of a really low tech opening from BYUN, right? He's going to be able to pour out the units, and he'll have the infrastructure to basically make as many bio units as he feels is necessary, right?
Yeah, that's certainly true, and I think ASTREA sitting here just kind of continually sending this Adept in, seeing if he can kind of get a read. Does actually let the Shade finish that time just to get that little bit of high ground sight, and is able to confirm, okay, there is at least one other barracks up there, and this Adept should be able to make it out alive. Does lose a little bit of health, but
yeah, but that's a very good trade-off. One kill on a Marine, and then again getting that all important, like what's going on in there, or at least the best you can.
No eyes on the third CC, of course, but ASTREA
this is horrifically aggressive for BYUN. If this doesn't work out, there will be much delayed. I mean, medevacs are going to be another 2 or 3 minutes out. Stim will finish, and this is going to basically be a naked, it's gonna be a naked bio. It's gonna be basically we're gonna run across the map here, and there'll be a 1-1 timing, I imagine, or well, I don't know. I
Just
just
plus
by
one
the time
attack.
stim and 1-1 finishes, you just get 50 supply worth of Marines across the map, and it looks to be like that's the build here, and so that defending a build like that requires a different one, you need to know it's coming, but two, it requires a different set of units than I think that is typical in this matchup at this exact timing. Normally, it's very safe to make an immortal or two, or perhaps teching up to something like blink stalkers just on the map to kind of zone. Blink stalkers are not going to be what you want versus a bunch of bio in your face.
Yeah.
And now you are able to kite across the map with it, but that's just they're not. But when you get all the way home, that's going to be it, right?
Yeah, well, and I think that's exactly, ASTREA sent that hallucinated phoenix across the map, saw the mass marine, and then that's when he decided to send all these stalkers over. He's like, all right, cool, you're going to try to land the CC here. I'm going to try to block that as well as pick off some of your units. He does have blink, so he can start one-shotting these marines, falling back, and just kind of, picking them off across the map.
Yeah, and you have to wither it as it comes across the map. If you don't, if you just shows up, that's not a place you want to be. So these blink stalkers have to be kind of thoughtful at where they're located. Yeah, it's exactly right here, and get some damage done. Trying to bait that stim out. And on the home front, it looks like ASTREA is actually able to get a Colossus on the way. So there's been enough of a delay to get the tech out, but I mean this is still going to be moderately uncomfortable for the next probably 45 seconds to a minute until that Colossus gets out. And even then, it won't have range. It's still going to require a lot of support. Yeah, you got to bait that stim, maybe do some force fields. Looks like BYUN is not having it. He really kind of wants in before he knows that Colossus is coming, just like anybody else that's watching right now.
Charge is done, so I'm surprised that we continue to see more of these stalkers. ASTREA choosing to go for the more microable blink units. I think the first Colossus is out now. ASTREA is going to have to be careful not to let the Marauders just stim onto it, but I think with it out here, we should see ASTREA clean this army up without much of a problem. And on the fleeing here, ASTREA should be able to pick off almost all of these units. Isn't going to be able to get any of the medevacs, but I really like ASTREA's position.
And the low techness, if that is in fact a word, of BYUN's opening is that he is again he's got that fast third CC at the cost of tech. But if you look at what's going on here, BYUN has a fully saturated third, and that's right toe to toe with where ASTREA is. I mean, this is not typically the worker count you see at this point in time in this matchup, right? Usually ASTREA will have a large advantage, maybe 10 workers, 15 workers, something like that. But ASTREA is basically operating on the exact same economic big fight.
Big fight happening.
At the 11 o'clock position, finding words and watching this kind of struggle here is hard. These Marauders really doing very valuable units versus the Blink Stalker and the Colossus. I mean, you mentioned earlier you're looking to see maybe a couple more charge lots here, because charge lots just really honestly don't care versus Marauders. In fact, they'll just drag the mines into the bio. That's a pretty happy synergy there. But it looks like BYUN is basically going to just continue to be aggressive, trying to deny this fourth base of ASTREA. This is kind of a very uncomfortable position if you're ASTREA right now.
Yeah, a lot of the bio has gone down, but the Marauders are starting to jump on top of the Colossi. Colossi getting micro back pretty well. We do have a few of these mines here, so the Stalkers are going to have to be careful. They're going to have to blink back.
That mine, I think, got 2 or 3 Stalkers just on that splash damage. That was really, really... Oh, it hurt a lot. Oh, really good disruptor shots. Getting a couple workers here and there.
Okay.
That was an even better one. Looks like there's kind of less and less ground units here. Trying to get those medevacs. And it looks like kind of the expensive units from BYUN are kind of just, they're able to kind of extract themselves. And there's this big bio train that's just going to cross the map. I mean, BYUN has decided that he's just going to rally into it. And as long as these medevacs stay alive, these cheap units they have the support they need to continue the push. And this is actually looks really, really bad for ASTREA here. BYUN just
Yeah.
capitalizing on that economic advantage he took earlier. That's another couple of workers there, units there. Good damage done. Just Bio's so robust, and with these medevacs overhead, they just keep them fresh. Really, really scary position to be in right now. It's so close though.
Yeah, ASTREA did take the time to make a couple of DTs and send them into the mineral lines of BYUN. Looks like they have been cleaned up after getting 10 workers, and ASTREA barely able to hold on, but does lose that fourth base. Meanwhile, BYUN getting a planetary fortress up at the fourth base of his own. And like you said, this is starting to look really, really bad for ASTREA. BYUN currently up 5 workers here. If you take a look at that income tab, it's just a huge advantage because you also have mules coming down, right? The protest is supposed to get ahead in the worker count, but if you're behind, then it's a really tough spot to come back from.
Right. 2-2 finishing up for BYUN. This is kind of where Bio becomes. It's always dangerous. This is where Bio really gets lethal. That inflection point where the 2-2 kind of kicks in, they're really doing really good damage. You really need something else, either storms or some higher tier splash damage. And it looks like ASTREA just has to tap out. That's it.
Yeah, if those disruptor shots had gone off, like maybe ASTREA could have done it. But BYUN doing a great job of just stimming on top of those disruptors and just powering them down before Purification Nova finished off. So good game. BYUN takes map number 1, and we're going to go ahead and hop into game number 2 between ASTREA and BYUN. The map number 2 going to be Pillars of Gold. Pretty straightforward map. Let's go ahead and get them introduced here.
And spawning in the upper right-hand corner of Golden, we have the red Protoss player from Alpha X, ASTREA.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand side is your blue Terran player, currently up 1-0 in this best of 3. Can he close it out here, or will he go into game number 3? It is BYUN.
So I think if you're ASTREA here, you have to kind of... I don't know how much time was between the matches, but this is where ASTREA has to kind of figure out, what do I want to do differently?
Sure.
Where was... I hope that the players had the opportunity to watch the replays here, because ASTREA... acknowledging that fast third CC is basically kind of it's the mechanism that BYUN was able to just kind of throw more cheap units at him, and just kind of dog him down with just very well timed aggression. It's just, how do I get that information earlier, or how do I get in there and do that damage to slow that down? If he's going to do that again, how do I punish it, or how do I survive it?
Yeah, I think in these qualifiers, there's not a huge amount of time in between, but I imagine ASTREA probably just quickly scrolled through the build order history and said, hey, that CC was at, 234, and it should have been at 2, whatever, right? I am just making up these numbers. But I guess the third base should be sometime around 4 minutes, so it was at 3:45 instead of 4:20, whatever. In any case, for this game, we do see a probe coming in here. It is going to spot that it's Marine first once again. So I think ASTREA starting to get the thought of, okay, you went fast command center, Marine first, skipping the...
that might be the tell, is that where's the gas? Or more importantly, has the gas even been mined yet? Well, BYUN is actually going for maybe a more typical playstyle here.
Yeah.
Factory down, reactor will be... on, it's already currently on way. This is more of what I would expect at this exact time.
Yeah, but I like that BYUN did make it look the same, right? Because ASTREA there's no way that probe's going to get to the high ground, so you don't know if there's a fast CC or if there's a factory. Is this a gasless expand? Like what is happening?
That's right. Finding those tells, or finding ways to trick
Huh.
your opponent into thinking that you're doing the same thing again.
Interesting.
Right.
And this may be the subtle adjustment. Astrea, I actually just noticed this. Instead of going for that adept, Astrea goes for a sentry first. So this does mean that a hallucination will be able to fly across the map, get eyes on what's happening in BYUN space, and let Astrea know how best to respond. And I really like that, actually.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I don't need the adept so much as I need to know what BN is doing. Right. Estrella
Yeah.
has to know if there's that early third CC, and it looks like Estrella is going to go into a blink. And so there's even additional value out of that sentry, allowing you to potentially blink up using,
Mm-hmm.
a hallucinated phoenix. This
Yeah.
map has a lot of surface area, and maybe not the natural so much, but really, so it looks like Estrella gets his clean sweep. There's
Mm-hmm.
no third CC. All the buildings look like about where they're supposed to be. Now, it'd be really choice if he's able to kind of see this medevac, but it looks like this hallucination is going to off and go. Um, this early drop is certainly maybe not so typical, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of Marines, unupgraded Marines that are going to be showing up at Astrea's front door. Now, 2 gateways are done here. We've got a few units. Astrea spreading out, trying to say, okay, I'm ready for your mine drop. I've got my stalkers in position. But there are Hellions waiting at the front door, and I really wish Astrea's stalker was on hold position in the front of this wall. All right, and here comes the drop. Stalkers here in the back are ready. They they get spotted and shoot the medevac
Oh,
away.
looks like the Hellions want it. Oh, and
Oh,
it's
it's a
actually at the
full.
full wall. Because if they're going to have blink, the full wall
Oh.
doesn't do anything, right? And it looks like canceling whatever. I think that must have been a gateway.
Yeah, it was a gateway. I think that was actually really clever. Just saying, hey, I'm gonna wall this off. I saw that you had a couple Hellions popping out. I don't want to even have to deal with risking it. I'm just gonna spend the 35 minerals functionally to build the structure and cancel it later to save a probe's life. Stalker's going to get out here and get quite a bit of damage. Actually, might be able to kill off one of these Hellions. Can, in fact, with his friend. We have a
Has,
Raven.
has Estrella shown blink? I think that it might be
Yes.
assumed. Okay, Estrella has shown blink, so
Yeah.
there's the knowledge that BN must be, and that's why the tanks and the Marines are positioned thusly. Um,
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
on the way. Getting those upgrades started, I imagine that this second barracks will be popping down a tech lab to finish up combat shields at approximately the same time. It won't finish at the exact same time, but good enough. Trying not to get in too big of a fight before both of those upgrades are finished.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing to power up bio units, get the tanks. Looking to make a tank marine push that's kind of going to try and poke out Astrea's third. This third has a lot of surface area, both on this high ground on this cliff, as well as down in this straight position where you can kind of get in onto the nexus. Uh,
Yeah. I'm really curious. It looks like this Raven went all the way to the top left and is just now making its way back home. We didn't see it try to move in and drop any turrets, so I'm curious as to what BYUN was thinking. Maybe he was going to do it and then decided, you know what, he's got blink. I don't want to risk losing my Raven. But I don't know. Something really curious that I just thought I would thought I would point out. All right, it looks like these Stalkers are going to have to be very careful. They are going to have to try to shave off a few of these Marines as this army is making its way across. And this is a somewhat scary army. Now, if you look at the upgrades, charge is done. +1/+1 is about to finish as well. So Astrea's going to have those charge lots. He's got a total of 8 gateways. So he's going to have the units that he's going to want in terms of fighting this, as long as he can kind of hold on and delay BYUN a little bit longer.
Astrea is doing a much better job. I mean, I think that the time that BYUN has had to spend in the middle of the map is a lot longer than the previous game. The units were slightly different. There's some tech and finesse to these units. You can't just let your tank die because that's the push, right? If a Marine gets shaved, it's fine. It's not fine, but Astrea has done a much better job kind of delaying. And if you look at the receiving army, it looks like Astrea is in a much better position to kind of smash this solid. Still has to be really careful how to engage this, but I mean that's a lot of charge lots, and it
Yeah.
looks like 270-degree surround, and that's really gonna hurt.
Yeah, it looks like almost all the tanks have gone down now, and the mines have fired off all their shots. Zealots are pretty much all but cleared up, and there's going to be another big wave of them finishing up here shortly, and some an Immortal joining the fray as well. I think ASTREA is going to have no problems holding onto the third base this time.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that there's the pacing of it all. The upgrades are in a much better position. Looks like 2-2 is basically half done, or he's done something slightly different here. I'm sorry. Yeah, he's basically half done with his 2-2.
Yeah.
Whereas BYUN is kind of much less. He's not even finished his first armor upgrade. This is kind of annoying. I think that we talked about this
exactly.
This is kind of a hard place to be, but if you have to make another core, I don't think that you're going to be too sorry about it. Looks like there's actually a counter attack here by ASTREA, kind of pulling the workers off the line. That's kind of awkward. It probably needs to come home. But truthfully, what are Zealots going to do here? I mean, this army is very well postured in this mineral line. Maybe this is the best usage of those units right now.
I think
taken out, doing a lot of damage to those SCVs. Maybe that's not what was intended.
Yeah, and now we see ASTREA starting to go in and engage on the army on the low ground here, and I think once these units get cleaned up, ASTREA should be able to do another warp in on the other side of the map. And as these medevacs go down, I mean, there's, 2 back at home, and so much mining has been delayed. 17, 18 plus workers have fallen, and I think ASTREA might be taking us into game number 3. We will have to see what happens when these armies group up and when ASTREA pushes into the third base here. Now, I currently don't see any warp prisms on the map. We do have the robotics bay under construction here, so Colossus will be coming eventually. Some nice force fields here are going to cut some of this army off, and I mean, the charge lots are just getting on top of the Marauders. The Stalkers are focusing down the medevacs, and that's going to do it. ASTREA takes game number 2 in this best of 3.
That's right. BYUN just kind of seeing that I don't have the right stuff right.
Totally.
That push is supposed to get. I mean, I don't think that the push has to kill that third, but it has to trade at least pound for pound on the army, right? You have to make him make defensive units, and then you have to go kill them, right?
Yeah. And I think you want to force like workers to come off the line or do something as the
that's
Terran
right.
player. But we are going to quickly hop into this third game here, and I will let you introduce our first player.
Spawning in the lower right-hand corner of Death Aura, trying to make this happen. In the red, ASTREA.
And the top left-hand side, I don't think I mentioned this, but currently teamless. It is your blue Terran player. It is none other than BYUN.
Yeah, and so I would imagine that this map is going to play out very similar to last game. I think there are a lot of map components that kind of they're shared. Just the spacing of the bases, kind of the high. There's no high ground ramp for your expansion, but I don't think that really came into play last game. Again, I would anticipate maybe BYUN going for more of the build that I think he did last game instead of the first game, but I would anticipate ASTREA scouting for that first base, that first game third CC. I think that was good information to know, and I think that extra sentry versus the adept was, like I think you mentioned it in the second game, was a good refinement to how my opponent is currently playing and how do I safely figure out what he's doing, how to beat it, right?
Yeah, and it actually looks like BYUN is going to do something a little bit different this game. Noticing that the probe never actually makes its way up the ramp, BYUN decides to skip the first Marine. And goes straight for the reactor. Of course, ASTREA is now aware, says, okay, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and steal this gas so I can get sight of your stuff later. But I really like this. You know, ASTREA being a little bit more bold with this probe. I don't know what told him he could get away with it this game as opposed to the last 2 games. You know, he was being rather timid and didn't want the probe to just die to the Marine.
Yeah, I think that this signals it's a different build, right? But
Yeah.
more importantly, it is a low tech. It is a build that's going to. It may not be the 3cc build, but this is a build that basically has. In fact, it actually looks a lot like it. If you remember, in the first game, we had a second barracks go down. I think that it makes a tech lab, and I think STEM is upgraded.
And then
That's
it's
kind of what
yeah.
this looks like, right? And I expect the third CC kind of maybe in the lower part of his main. That's just the kind of the general shape of the thing. And it looks like ASTREA has opted for a stalker, not a sentry, not an adept, but it is able. It's an infinitely microable unit versus the Marines that I think that he's seen have been fielded. Right, there is opportunity here. Ooh, gotta be a little careful. That's too much. But this is yikes. Look at the value here of these
Man.
units. They've killed 4 Marines, and that push, that inevitable push that's going to come out with STEM done. 4 Marines doesn't sound like a lot, but it's you can breathe a little bit easier knowing that there's 4 less Marines, and that push has to come 4 Marines later for it to be just as dangerous, right?
Yeah.
There's your third CC. I expect that this game goes a lot like Game 1, and I guess that we figure out if ASTREA's figured out the tools and the mechanisms he needs to defend it, right? He won't know that third CC is built, but we do see that ASTREA is doing the right things. He is being aggressive, and he's making BYUN hurt a little bit for his lack of tech and his lack of units, right?
Yeah. We see Blink about halfway done the Robo facility, finishing up shortly as well. There is a sentry that's going to get ready to hallucinate and get some scouting information pretty soon. Although it looks like ASTREA might just go for that observer first. Pretty straightforward standard build here out of ASTREA. He is taking his 4th gas a little bit faster than normal, but nothing too crazy here. Observer is making its way across the map, and it looks like we do see a robotics bay coming down. So the AoE tech of choice here for ASTREA is going to either be Colossi or Disruptors.
Yeah, and I didn't get the timestamp in game number 1, but I have the impression that timing is a little bit. It's become more important by 10%. Getting the critical mass of Colossi up, or again, whatever your defensive splash damage is of choice. I think in game number 1, it kind of came out one at a time and very snipeable. I think getting it out, getting a good clump of them is going to be very important to defend this push that BYUN is pushing for it right now.
Yeah, I'm actually really worried about this push that BYUN is making across the map. It's made its way across the map completely unscouted. Now at this point, ASTREA has to be thinking, okay, where are all of your units? My observer and my hallucinated Phoenix haven't seen anything, and here they come. This stemmed bio is running in. They're gonna go ahead and actually start fighting these stalkers. The stalkers are gonna have to blink into the main, and this is actually looking really bad here for ASTREA. This is a nice stim time here out of BYUN, and these bio units are just gonna crush through all of these stalkers. Colossus is about halfway done, so maybe he's gonna be able to do that, but 18 workers, 19.
But 19 workers is a lot of workers.
Yeah.
Charge 3/4 done, or maybe 2/3. Look at the follow-up here. Again, medevacs are only starting now. So this army that exists is only as big as this. That was a lot of damage, but I think that if ASTREA does the Zen, again, that was the timing push. If you beat the timing push, that might be all you need, right? Again, there's no currently in game number 1. I think at about 10 minutes or something like that, there was the endless stream of bio units. We're not there yet, and as long as ASTREA is basically able to kind of get again those Colossus units out I think that he's going to be able to defend against the same style of unit that we saw in game number 1. That's fourth base. Unfortunately, is probably forfeit. Um, but I think that's a little bit of greed. I think that's a trade that I think that Stray is willing to make here. Ooh, and that Colossus just caught out of position. Just I don't know. This is all right. I think Thermal Lance is it done?
No, I actually don't even see it in
Oh,
production
he
here.
hasn't even
So
started.
these are just regular Colossi for now. Like you said, Astraea is able to barely hold on to this fourth Nexus, and I mean, if he can survive the big push, I think Astraea is going to be in a great position. Right, he's already caught up and is ahead in that worker count again.
Right.
But
this is two Colossi standing next to each other. As long as you can get some support units under it, and you have the third and you have the fourth, their combat effectivity is exponential. Right. You get one Colossus, you might as well have a Reaper. If you have 4 or 5 Colossi, you can't just run into them. Right. Ooh. Sniping that mine before it's able to burrow. And again, this army just doesn't look quite as ferocious as I think we saw last time, right?
Yeah, it looks like Astraea recalling half of the army over here just to deal with the hit squad of the 2 medevacs. And I really like Astraea has been dropping these kind of scouter pylons all over the map. And sure, they're dying. He's losing a worker or 2 here or there to those. But I think it's a great thing, right? He just knows where the army of BYUN is.
I think that's the GI Joe thing, right? Knowledge is power.
Yep.
Knowing where your opponent is allows you to position yourself in the most advantageous place possible. And in fact, it looks like BYUN is willing to sacrifice a scan there to make sure that observer is dead. If you're able to be in the right place, you can have a smaller army. You can have a worse army if you're able to, be in the right spot at the right concave, or you have the gotcha and they don't have it. Looks like Zealot's making quick work of this 4th command center. Well, I guess the bio units here will distract them for a little bit, but at least stopping it, that's a good place to be. Allowing, and remember that 4th base from Astraea never really got killed. In fact, it's been mining this entire time.
No. Astraea is pulling his army back out of here right as BYUN is loading up and boosting into the main. Okay, Astraea sees the scan and starts to make the way back up here. But there's a lot of units here. Well, okay, he should be able to clean this up, right? Now I'm just worried about what's going to happen on the other side.
Yeah, I think the 4th will be a little. The 4th will be harassed a little bit, and I think that some Colossus got killed here. But I think for the most part, that's a pretty good hold. What died? A gateway and a pylon. And some units, and they traded, I think, actually at a pretty fair clip. Fortunately, that leaves this 4th base completely out of position here. I think that, well, BYUN just has to leave. Look at the size of this defending army. And again, Scatter Pylon probably gets sacked for it, but...
Oh, I really like that out of Astraea, just hallucinating a couple of Phoenixes here to fight. Oh, no! Colossus is going to fall as it's rallied over here. I was going to say I like the use of the hallucinations to pop those mines, and yeah, BYUN's just doing a great job of kind of hitting Astraea on one side, pulling the army back on the other.
It's ping pong, right? I mean, and Zealots are good, but the core, big, meaty Protoss army that I think you want to have all together has just never been able to assemble. BYUN's been able to, Terran unit sets like to fight apart, or at least more. And it looks like that 4th base going down for Astraea, and as well as all the workers. Unfortunately, it looks like about 16 or 17 probes dying.
Yeah.
Equal base counts, and it looked like a huge Zealot drop in the back of BYUN's base. That's going to hurt, and what that's going to do is it's going to keep future... This army is basically all BYUN has at the front, because all the reinforcements are going back to defend these Zealots. So all Astraea really has to do here is just kill what you see in front of him.
Yeah.
Which is easier said than done, but I mean, that's all right. Force fields capturing, 5 or 6 Marauders. More force fields keeping them up off the ramp. This is really hairy. And then look at all of these red and bruise bio units.
Yeah, and I mean these medevacs are pretty much out of energy here. Stray has to be careful that he doesn't, overstep his bounds and lose these colossi. They are the only things separating him from death. Now we do see the fourth base is done. It's turned into PF, and a missile turret is going down at it. So the longer this game goes on, the more I think BYUN is in a commanding position. We do see a little DT hit squad going around the south side, but another big engagement getting ready to start up near the natural base. And again, BYUN just has a small group of Marauders and Marines on the bottom side to distract.
It's at this point in the matchup that Terran has. I'm not saying Terran has won, but Terran is basically looking to expand tech, looking to round out the army. And so, if I would not, I would see ghosts. I would see liberators. I mean, this is the opportunity where the Terran player is allowed to breathe a little bit and kind of get ahead.
All right, we see a big drop in the main base of ASTREA. The army is caught way out of position. Some of it does need to get recalled here, and I think he's recalled enough. But at the same time, there's more units running down at this fourth base. Medevacs are going to come down and join them. And actually, with this Colossus falling... Okay, yeah, ASTREA is going to be able to clean all of this up in the main, but is forced to cancel that fourth base. And ASTREA is just starting to get a little bit starved here. We see BYUN at 170 supply. He's got 1,500 minerals, 500 gas. Meanwhile, ASTREA is struggling to stay above 100 supply and has his bank pretty much empty.
DT's poking in and getting a missile turret at BYUN's third, and then promptly running away once the scans start coming out. ASTREA, kind of vetoing this army back, but again, the damage kind of done in that. Again, he just doesn't have that fourth, and he's going to run out of money if something's not done about this, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, he goes to make that fourth base, and the mine blocks it and kills the probe. ASTREA gonna need an observer, or I guess he's just gonna rely on. Oh, here it is. Observer is going to clean that up, but there's just a lot of bio units making their way over, and now as Vikings are getting added into this mix, it's gonna be hard for this Colossi to stay alive. Luckily, ASTREA does have one disruptor out and another one in production.
It's like a bunch of DTs are kind of trying to slow this army down, and they're doing the delta split. Trying to.
You can scan, but you're gonna need one scan for each of us.
That's right. But that kind of stopped this push a little bit, trying to buy some time. 3-3 done and complete, and it looks like there's that Ghost Academy at the natural base for BYUN. Starting to kind of add in those technical units, the EMP. As well as potentially nukes in case the game gets, in case that's required. Nuclear bombs being the kind of the stalemate breaker. It looks like ASTREA is unfortunately kind of out of position, and it looks like that's going to be to the tune of his fourth base again.
Yeah, and the really scary thing is these units could just load in the medevacs and head straight to the main if they wanted to. It looks like ASTREA is going to opt to go for the counterattack. Nice big disruptor shot there, actually. Will it be enough, though? I feel like
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, BYUN has enough at home to just hold this army off, let alone the stuff that he has at the front.
Is DT Blink? DT Blink is research,
done.
So I think yeah, that's right. This is like kind of approaching that number of that's unfortunately not where those DTs want to be.
No,
I was gonna say that's about the right number that you kind of want to have, but unfortunately they kind of got caught. And now there's Vikings up in the sky, and unfortunately I just don't think that these stalkers can do anything about it.
Ooh, nice disruptor shots.
Hits, not. Unfortunately, it looks great. It's just it's not enough, and it looks like ASTREA calling the GG right there.